Hey guys, Dave from Nerdarchy, for Nerds by Nerds, hanging out with.
Nerdarchy is Ted.
And today we're going to do a side-by-side comparison of the old DM screen and the DM screen Reincarnated.
Jump down the description below where you can sign up for Nerdarchy the newsletter, get weekly gaming tips, as well as learn how to game with Nerdarchy.
So we're looking at the Reincarnated Dungeon Master screen, not Scream, that just picked up the other day. And, both of the screens have the one thing in common, and that is being
long.
really, really big.
So, I mean, if you fold them out there, you got, the full 4-panel display of information as well as some pretty decent artwork to go alongside it. Now, I will say that artwork-wise, I like the old one better. But logo-wise, I have to say that I dig the Dungeons & Dragons with the ampersand on the new one much better than the old, flag-like thing over here.
So we have a huge section of these that are actually just the same.
Yeah, so if you get into it, the middle block, which is the conditions, is exactly the same. There's a reason for it, and that's because these are the things that are going to come up the most.
Yeah, it literally takes up a panel and a half. But it's like Ted said, if you're going to need to refer to something, this would be one of those things you're going to be want to be referring to.
Yeah, I think conditions, how many different monsters actually cause a condition, and rather than have everything memorized or have to constantly be looking back at the book, this is the ideal information to have right there on your screen.
Yep. And you're going to want to know, how many levels of exhaustion before you're dead.
6.
Well, maybe some of us already know. So on the very first panel, that is where a lot of things get changed up.
So on your old screen, you have the NPC characteristics, NPC ideals, NPC bonds, NPC flaws, and a name generator. Now, truth be told, I never really did much with the NPC stuff. I use the name generator pretty regularly, on average once or twice a session if I didn't already have a name picked up, or if you guys are like, oh, I want to go look for a such and such. Okay, well, let's randomly roll a name real quick and jot this guy's name down.
So, and I know you like that section.
Well, I like the name generator, but other than that, the rest of it was not used.
Yeah, so I could take that or leave it. I think what they replaced it with might be a little bit better. And that's the actions in combat. So you can just look real quick. If especially for a new GM, this is going to be super useful. And then there's like these obscure rules that don't come up that often. So I personally never remember them.
You've got the long jump, the high jump, suffocating, and
concentration.
And concentration. Now, I think I've got concentration down, although, because that one comes up far more regularly than the other three. But it's good to have that right there, on the screen, ready to go, should it come into question.
And, you also have, the things you can do on your turn as well, which kind of like is an addendum to the actions in combat. So they both are going to be useful. That's going to work out as a GM. Quick reference, boom.
So I think, as you stated, that actually having that section for a new GM, highly critical, wonderful choice. So if we get over into the third panel, where we've got half of it is covered up by conditions, there's a little bit of back and forth between whether it's on the third panel or fourth panel between the two of them.
A lot of the important stuff is the same.
Right.
They just moved it around on you.
Yeah, right.
Like skills and associated abilities. Yeah, they left on that on there. Makes sense. You're going to need it.
You have setting it as a DC. You have obscured areas. You have cover. Do you have light?
Yes, we do have light.
All right. So that's one of those things that I think a lot of DMs ignore or not ignore, but forget about, and that perception scores are pretty high in this game because people like to take that observant feat, but if you can't see all that well, it tends to hamper that.
Right. So both of those, all that stuff kind of has overlap. So I think where it's really different is one a like section of the last panel, and it's a good idea, but I don't like the execution. It literally shows, you know, like a goblin, a sturge, a human warrior, an ogre, a stone giant, and a purple worm, right? And then it's got this meter next to it, this bar to kind of show heights. And it also lists tiny, small, medium, large, huge, gargantuan. Great idea, but there's no numbers. Like, I feel like even if it just did every 5 feet, so you could quick glance and see approximately how big things are, but you have to be like, I guess that's about a foot and a half. That might be 3, maybe 6. You know, I guess you can kind of like eyeball and guess, but numbers would make it easier.
I would agree. Now, in the original, we have a nice little battle going on with the Tarask that's in color, whereas yours is a black and white.
Black and white grayscale. I don't mind the art so much, and I think, like I said, I think the idea is really good for, because I've done it too as a GM. I'm like, even as an experienced GM, I'm like, well, what size is that, right? Because you know, from edition to edition, they've kind of played with the sizes and changed them up a little. So I think it's a handy thing to have, and also like for a reference of your, if you're, especially if you're playing Theater of Mind and your players are like, oh, we're facing this thing. Well, how big is that? So you can be like, well, that's about the size of a house. You know, so I like it.
As I said, that there's a lot of things that are just the same on both. Some of the things that you do lose on the old screen, there's a thing for something happens, and it's got a D20 roll, and it could be a tremor shakes the ground. There's a foul smell in the air. A door opens. Unexplained magic occurs. So like, if you're lost for something to do, you could roll that. Most DMs probably not going to use that, which is why it went away. I thought it was something cool to have. And then you've got a quick finds, which is a D12, and you could just, somebody's searching. Oh, well, this is what you find. You find a letter. You find magical herbs. You find a secret message. Ooh.
So yeah, they're kind of interesting things. But what they replaced it with is food, drink, and lodgings, and that's kind of stuff that's going to come up in your game. And you know, instead of just going, look at the DMG, you can just go, no, it's cost X, right? And it lists that. That's probably one of those interesting sections that you kind of end up jumping, back and forth in the player's handbook with, where now you don't have to do it. You can just be like, oh, you want it now? That's 2 copper, because
Right.
you have that information right in front of you.
So, on the whole, you lost all the NPC stuff, the name generator, something happens, and quick finds. Nothing all that terrible. What you gain for losing all of that is you get actions in combat, the rules for jumping, suffocating, concentration, food, drink, and lodgings, services, as well as tracking DCs. So I think overall, strong, good decisions were made for what was lost and what was replaced. So yeah,
Yeah, you're gonna have to decide whether or not it's worth it for you to buy a new DM screen if you don't have one already. But if you don't, it's definitely a good find. It's a good deal. But you guys, you can let us know what you think of the DM screens. You can check the description where you can find a link to get your DM screen on Amazon.
so while you're down there, don't forget to hit like, share, and subscribe.
Check us out at nerdarchy.com.
So until next time,
Stay nerdy.